wise man lives with a purpose. A foolish man lives for himself. One day, when I'm gone, you will be head of the Medici family, and you must lead us.
Does it scare you? A little. Let the fear drive you to work hard and prepare and lead us all to Christ.
Father!
You can't think I had anything to do with it.
Well, the medallion bears your seal, does it not?
Juliana did not die in vain.
Then what did he die for?
Would you help me?
Can I have a knife?
All I want is peace for Italy.
I'm St. Peter's successor!
You win or you lose. There is nothing else.
No compassion.
You think that you can work a miracle? You're only flesh and blood.
You cannot fight God. He's our father.
And he's abandoned his children.
Together we can defeat Lorenzo.
For the welfare of his kingdom, he had to sacrifice his dearest possession.
You will never, ever rule Florence.
While I live, Florence will not fall.
Hey everyone, it's Soul here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. For this week's video, I wanted to talk about a show that I feel deserves way more hype than what it gets, and that show is Netflix's Medici, the Masters of Florence, and Medici the Magnificent. This is a beautifully done historical drama that focuses on one of Europe's most influential and powerful families to ever exist, the Medici family in Florence. Now, everything is so good in this show, and I really just wanted to come on here today and tell you all why I personally love this show and why I think it's good. And if you haven't seen it already, I'm going to try and convince you to go and watch it. Before we jump in though, please remember to hit that like button, click subscribe to see more videos from me, and leave a comment down below. Here is your one and only warning that this video contains spoilers. Alright, grab your canvas and coins and let's ride in. Netflix's Medici, the Masters of Florence came out 7 years ago back in October 2016, with the second and third season being titled Medici the Magnificent, that came out in January 2019 and May 2020. Now, the show follows the Medici family as they plot, plan, and struggle to keep their bank in business, as well as keep the Republic of Florence flourishing under their control. We get to follow along across the generations of the Medici as we see how they secured their place as the most influential household in all of Italy and arguably all of Europe. We also get to watch as we see the families and the characters' inner struggles with ideas of love, honesty, morality, as well as religion. We watch them finance and push for the great artists of that time period to constantly expand and improve on their work. Between the love, the drama, the art, and that mobster feeling that arises in the ideas of family and blood is everything, there really is something for everyone to love and appreciate in this show. Now, I do have to admit that I do have a slight bias towards this show, partially because of emotional reasons. I give this show so much love and credit simply because it is a good historical drama. Now, I know it sounds a bit silly to like a show purely because of its genre, especially when the facts and the history get twisted a lot to create the drama, but let me just explain. In case you couldn't tell from my voice, I am born and raised in America. I have always loved and been fascinated by history, mainly European history, but as I am sure many of you are aware, the US definitely sucks when it comes to teaching and learning about history. For me personally, my love for European history grew heavily from the television shows that I would watch and love. So when I stumbled across this show that was really well done and really enjoyable and fascinating to watch, and it turned out to be about a real family in Florence that I had next to no knowledge of aside from hearing the name in passing, it just makes me love this show so much more. This show acted as an introduction to a whole new section of history and stories that I never knew of, And while the historians who know the ins and outs of the Medici family history, they will probably dislike this dramatization, I think that shows like this, well-written and well-executed historical dramas like Medici, are a great way of introducing people to a brand new area of history that they can then choose to study further or not. I know for me, it forced me to go out and buy books on the Medici family just because I am so fascinated to learn more about this influential family that existed and started off in Florence and grew across all of Europe and the world. Now, with my bias out of the way, the first thing that I have to praise and the first thing that you will notice in the show is the beautiful soundtrack. The level of emotions, the amount of chills that these songs bring up is absolutely insane. And honestly, if you're ever in the mood to have some added tension, romance, or drama in the background of your life, this is the go-to soundtrack. But in all seriousness, whenever a show has a really, really good soundtrack, it can make such a huge difference in the tone of the show, as well as how each scene is perceived by us viewers. The show did a phenomenal job with this, and I loved it so much. Going off of how the music sets the tone and the feeling, the filmography, the costumes, the sets, they all do such an outstanding job. I get goosebumps on my arms every time I watch the scene in which Cosimo climbs the unfinished dome of the cathedral. That scene is just so powerful. Now, the CGI settings, as well as the actual sets and locations that they filmed at, are just so beautiful to see on screen, as well as how they filmed and edited the shots together. It all just lined up so perfectly. Now, one reason that I feel this show is so outstanding across all these different departments is because of how in sync the feeling is of the need for the dramatics. The show knows exactly what it wants to do, and it really leans into the drama and each specific emotion of each and every scene. The in-sync feeling being consistent across the sets, the effects, the soundtracks, the filmography, and of course also the acting. All of that combined, in my opinion, is what makes this show so great. And just to sort of emphasize how important and impactful it can be to have this sort of consistency of emotion and tone across all these different departments, I have to bring up Reign, which is another historical drama. Reign has a very similar feeling when it comes to the tone of the dialogue, but the modern music and the lack of precision in the use of the soundtrack and sound effects that get played over the scenes, it can sometimes take away from the weight of the dramatic moments that are being created through the sets, the words, and the acting performances. But with Medici, everything works together in perfect unison. Now, I've already mentioned the acting very briefly, but another reason that I love this show is because of the cast. We have everyone from Ned and Robb Stark to King Arthur, to Tewksbury, to Charlotte Haywood, to King Francis, to the Antichrist, and to our favorite Earth Fairy, Sam. I am like 99% sure that anyone watching this show will recognize at least one of the many talented actors that star in it. Every named character in this show delivers a fantastic performance, but if I had to pick some of my favorite performances, aside from our leading men in each season, of course, because they are just, their talent is extreme and really, I have no words in terms of that. But if I had to pick some performances aside from our two leading men, I think I'd have to go with Lucrezia, who is played by Sarah Parrish, and Francesco, who is played by Matteo Mattari. In case you can't tell by my choices in actors, the second season is my personal favorite. Now, Matteo's performance as this pure evil is really fun to watch on screen. His harsh attitude is present right from the beginning, but his talent really shines through in his ability to make us like him. The writing for when Francesco starts to soften and open up, combined with Matteo's performance, it causes us to grow and like Francesco really quickly in Season 2, Episode 3. But while it happens quickly, his performance gives off a very natural and gradual persona shift. And then in Episode 5, where he is slowly falling into the trap of evil, with his uncle getting into his head about who Francesco's wife is loyal to, and the real question of whose side Lorenzo de' Medici is truly on, the performances there is just so good. Again, his gradual shift back into evil in personality feels so natural, and yet it happens so very quickly within the span of like half an episode. We as an audience also feel upset for him. There is the feeling of heartbreak as he once again goes against the Medici, not only because of the heartbreak between him and his wife, but also the heartbreak between Francesco and Lorenzo's friendship. The end of the season and the end of Francesco's story is of course so heartbreaking for us viewers as well, since we had caught that glimpse earlier on of what could have been a very happy ending between Francesco and Lorenzo and their families. But sadly, that was not the case. Then we have Sarah's performance in season 2 and 3. She plays the fierce yet caring matriarch very, very well, and her performance in the season 2 finale is bone-chilling. Now, I do not want to give any spoilers to anyone who has not watched the show, so if you have not seen it, please click off now, go watch the show on Netflix, and then come back to this video because this is a major, major spoiler. Alright, now that everyone here has seen the show, Lucrezia's gut-wrenching cries as her sons are attacked and Giuliano is killed, it's an acting performance worthy of an award. I mean, that scene in general, it leaves me speechless because it is so, so good. Everything from the slow motion to the cut out of the sound and the sudden metal twang of the sword being unsheathed in silence before her sudden echoing cry and scream. It's perfection. All of the actors' performances in this scene is definitely amazing, but her clawing at the pews as Clarice drags her to safety and her cries echoing throughout the cathedral, it's not something that I can ever forget, and it is a truly incredible performance. Also, since I'm speaking about this scene, the fact that this event actually happened in history is just mind-blowing. And of course, I know the details of the event are shifted for television, but the fact that Giuliano de' Medici was murdered in the Florence Cathedral by the patsy during Easter Sunday Mass, it's really one of those moments that if there wasn't actual proof of this happening, no one would believe it because it is so dramatic and absurd, and it's just so emotional. I love the fact that they included this, and it's really just one of those moments where history just trumps fiction in so many ways. In terms of the plot and the writing, I don't think that there's another show that I've ever watched that had such gripping first episodes in every single season. Now, given this is only 3 seasons long, so I'm not comparing it to something, say, the length of Supernatural, but the mysteries and series of events that occur in the first episode is so intriguing, and it immediately hooks us and forces us to watch more. In the first season, we start off with the main mystery of Giovanni's murder, but we also have the general mysteries of who are these people, why is Giovanni important, how did Cosimo go from this doe-eyed wannabe artist to the serious man in power that we see after his father's death? All of these are basically the general questions that arise when we start watching a pilot episode. Now, with the time jump to the second season, we have 2 big mysteries. The first being, what is going on in that introduction? Who is Lorenzo and why is he so important that he is getting murdered? Then we also have the mystery that occurs after the introduction but prior to the events of the introduction through a time jump to the past. We have the question of who attacked Piero, and because of that time jump, we also have the same questions that we had in season 1. Who are these characters and why are they important? We also just want to know how the Medici family go from this moment to the moment that we saw beforehand in the introduction that will eventually come at the end of the season. Season 3 then has the mystery of who is this boy, and we also have the tense issues that come during this aftermath of Season 2, and questions of how will Lorenzo save Florence from not only being excommunicated, but from further issues and risks down the line. One thing that I feel the writers do really well is the handling of the flashbacks and the time jumps in this show. Not only is the writing itself so good, but the pacing and the timing of the moments are great. They are very precise in the information that they give in each moment, and they also know when we need a more artistic and emotional flashback, or when we need a more informative one. Time jumps and flashbacks are something that is very difficult to perfect, so I have to give the writers a round of applause for nailing this on the head. Look, as a whole though, Medici Masters of Florence and Medici the Magnificent is a very entertaining show that gives a great introduction to the history of the Medici family, with gripping introductions to each season, with a flair for the dramatics and a beautiful soundtrack, stunning CGI and sets, and an artistic feel and tone throughout the show. We get stories of forbidden love, loss, power struggles, plotting, and ultimately we are thrown into the past as we watch the shaping of Florence under the Medici influence. I love this show so much, and I wish we could have gotten another season, as I would have loved to see the show's adaptation of how the first two Medici popes ruled, Giovanni and then Giulio. I would have also loved to see how Piero was exiled and then brought back into Florence after regaining power. Also, it would have been so satisfying to see Savonarola's downfall. I think because of season 2 and 3 using more facts from history and having the show end at these major moments, it was just a little bit extra heartbreaking to me that we couldn't see the history play out even more. But despite there not being a 4th season, Medici is a great show that leaves me speechless and honestly leaves me fumbling over words to explain how good it is and how much I enjoy it. So if you guys somehow made it through this video without ever seeing the show, please go watch it. I am begging you, because you won't be disappointed. If you guys like my discussion, please hit that like button down below and leave your thoughts in the comment section. While you're down there, click subscribe to see more videos from me, and turn on notifications if you want to be notified whenever I post a new video. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I will see you future souls next time. Bye, guys!